Running through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles ride.
All right. So just FYI, family, y'all have taken it way too far. I just want to say that to y'all. We have an emergency video. Y'all have taken it too far. Okay? Y'all have taken it too far. Now, there have been some interesting people who have gotten nervous. Maybe because they haven't seen me on a live. Maybe because they saw a video and we're promoting another website. So folks like, wait a minute, maybe he didn't send my order because he got a new website. Or folks like, EnQi is not teaching health no more. He's a rapper now. He's doing music, you know. And so that's the other thing. That's the main thing. That's what it actually is. Because those are like just a handful of people with the panic. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I have that song, Married to the Game for Life, for the panic people. When the panic start, people start asking me weird questions. That's when I did that song. That's why it's like 30-minute groove to where you could just listen to that song. Like, because I was hoping in my mind y'all would knock it off. I've been doing this longer than most of the people who watch me have been doing whatever it is that you've been doing. Whatever it is you've been doing, you might have switched jobs, you might have got fired, you might have got laid off, you might have had a baby, you might have went, whatever you did. But most people, some people are good. They stay at a job for 20, 30, 40 years and retire from that job. 2026 is not so much of that anymore. People moving around now after every 2-3 years, people hopping around. I've been doing this same thing for decades, publicly decades. Yeah, publicly 2 decades, solid. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? But not so publicly, even longer than that, because I've been doing this since I was like 10 when it comes to like the scholarly part. The reading and the writing. You know what I'm saying? So now I will say this. I do know that a lot of these numbers that are texting me, asking me wild questions, I think there's a direction behind it. I think I'm almost figuring out who the person is. Because there's a person that's a health, you know, one of the herbal salesmen, one of the quote unquote brothers, is using that as his sales pitch. Like, yo, you might as well grab this from me or come over here and do whoop, because, you know, EnQi don't do health information no more. And I was like, okay, I have to do a video now. Like, I got to do a video. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I need to do a video and expose homeboy, right? I need to expose homeboy, go crazy. And then I was like, no, incorrect. What you need to do is do a video and you need to talk to the people who are supporters, but they're not real, you know, like there's levels of supporters. You know, there's people who watch the video. Most of the people, they watch the videos because they think they're entertaining, right? And every so often they might watch 20 videos. And if you know 20 videos of mine, each video gonna be 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. So they might watch 100 hours of content and maybe they might send me 1 or 2 like $2 super chats or something. Like, these are not real supporters. You know what I'm saying? If I counted on their support, I'd be dead. You know what I'm saying? So I do know that I got to take it with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of people that only watch me on whoever other's channel that they know me on. Like there's a lot of people that while we was doing medicine, they only watched me on Tuesday night at 8. You know what I'm saying? Because they're HJ's people. So when I come to HJ's platform, they enjoy me in that pocket, but not so much that they're coming over on their own and buying products and books and, you know, joining the movement for you know, praying with us. And, well, you know, like they're not, you know what I'm saying? And that's the same thing with my page, right? I have my people. If somebody comes over and interviews, people may enjoy that interview, but that may not be something that makes you go subscribe to their page. You know, so you know, it's not something that's just what that's not like, woe is me. That's just the nature of promo. You know what I'm saying? Like there are Jimmy Kimmel fans. You know what I'm saying? They watch his show. Well, you get what I'm saying. They'll watch Jimmy Kimmel, you know, and whoever he brings on, they watch it, they enjoy it, but they're going to keep watching Jimmy Kimmel every night. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, and you being there and you being good is more justification for why they're watching Jimmy Kimmel, or why, if you watch Sarnetta, you watch Sarnetta because you enjoy the people he brings on, or you know, whoever, you know what I'm saying? If you watch Andrew Huberman or whatever, you know what I'm saying? You like his convo and the people he brings on, so you watch it. But the not teaching health thing, and you know, like I said, after I really sat down to think about it, it was important for me to come and have this conversation, because I said that there's a couple of things. The one thing is, you know, you guys gotta, so here's the thing. Y'all gotta remember that YouTube is public. And usually when I beef with guys, they never stop watching my videos. I have a unique thing that I do. Can't get it somewhere else. You can get something maybe close or similar in your mind, but it's not, I guess, you know what I'm saying? So when I be talking and I be like, oh yeah, Jack Cruz this, or KT that, or Yaki this, I am fully aware that those people are watching the video, not because somebody's going to watch me and, you know, give them a sub or say their name or whatever the case may be, and then they send it and go, oh, EnQi District. No, they're watching because most of these guys, or at least, you know, like KTs and Yakis and some of the other smaller, you know, herbal guys, they're feeding their family based on their health career. Their health career starts with me as their teacher, whether it's directly on purpose like KT, or hiding in the shadows on some hate, you know, like Yaki. It doesn't matter. So they still gonna keep watching me. I'm not keeping my lights on based on what I learned from them. They keep their lights on, and some of these guys even pretty good based on what they're getting over here, right? So my point is, people are watching, right? And so when I go for a long period of time and I don't put up a live stream, it's not just my supporters that are saying, yo, EnQi's, you know, where the hell's EnQi, right? It's also my haters that over time, because we're not actively making, you know, going back and forth or whatever, they may just go on, I go on. We're not really shooting back and forth at each other, maybe a sub here or there, but when they see you go down, oh, that goes out. That goes out quick, because you have people that support you that also don't like the person you don't like. So when Ali Muhammad YouTube page went down, you know what I'm saying? Ali Muhammad YouTube page went down like some months ago. And Ali hadn't lost the YouTube page ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, maybe a few back in the days, back when YouTube first started. We was all losing pages back then because we were just There was no Me Too. There was no, there was no rules. Say whatever we wanted to say. And then every time YouTube would come up with rules, we had already did like 100 videos breaking those rules. So they'd knock your channel down. You know what I'm saying? Until eventually we learn, community guidelines. And the community guidelines are on this page and that page. So it's not like you on YouTube, then on Facebook, then on or MySpace, you know what I'm saying? Back in the days when we was rocking, it was MySpace first. But my point is I know I get distracted. My point is people watch. They don't see me up, they're gonna say whatever. You know what I'm saying? Ali page went down. I got like 5 hits immediately. I'm talking about timely. That's not the over the next few days to a week or so later where people just casually mention, like, yo, your man Ali page went down. I didn't celebrate it. I might have celebrated a little bit silently, but I didn't celebrate it publicly, and I didn't want to, I know what that's like. You know what I'm saying? And regardless to what, I know he got kids. So I didn't celebrate that publicly or, do a video to try to make a move, because I could have tried to make a move. See, that's what I'm saying folks is doing to me. Like, they don't see me online, so they doing their little Weasley snake thing. I never operate like that. So Ali joint go down. All right, cool. That's what you get. You know what I'm saying? Or that's now you see what it feel like to lose, a popping page. I done lost a bunch of them. 30,000, 50,000 subs. Like, so, but on that level, but no, I wouldn't want, his kids to, because his kids depend on it. But, people watch. So the haters are active, and they see an opportunity, and some of my haters are more opportunistic than others, But the biggest thing is the intelligence, the importance of what we're doing with these books. If people are watching and they're listening and they have even one book out of the series, one, it's not possible to say that we're not still teaching health. The question now is, are people lying on purpose, or are they ignorant? And like I said, at first, if y'all been following me long enough, y'all know I was like, but then I was like, I think these guys are dumb. I think they're dumb. I think, yeah. Dumb is not the right thing to say. I think they're less, I think, how they do you when you violate people in power? You violate the Jewish people, and then they come and get you and put you into like the social choke out, and then you got to come online and apologize, and you say, you knew you, wait, I'm sorry to act in the ignorance of, and I think education is, I know I need education. I think I acted out of ignorance, and folks be out there looking crazy. They out there looking crazy, acting out of ignorance. So the thing is, how do you got a copy? What copy was y'all talking about? Plant genetics is out of print? Oh, that's crazy. If plant genetics is out of print, you would be telling me something. I don't know that could be a fact. I'm hoping that's not a fact. That's crazy. I gotta check this out. I gotta check that out. My man said plant genetics. All right, so here we go. Here's random Amazon. I'm not doing any slick type of search. What I will do is leave my name there. I'm gonna go EnQi Real, and then I'm gonna go plant genetics and see what happens. Oh no, it's right there. Yeah. Yeah, it's right there. That's it. You might have it confused with a different book. You might be thinking about a different book cover. Because I do get that sometime. Like people be like, yo, you have so many books. I thought this was the book with the other book. You might be thinking about the blue book. But the blue book is up here still too. You know what else? So here's the thing. I got different book series. I don't know if y'all pay attention to this, but I haven't talked about this in a while. So maybe we should look at this. So book 40 or 46. So this is a book series right here where I have 46 books in this series, right? And you just go down, show all. This series right here is where I think, yeah, this is where all the books you talking about is at. Plant genetics, and in the beginning was the wave. You know what I'm saying? And then you go from there. Desire of Christ, Love-onometry, right? And of course, those don't make sense. Those don't make sense unless we go over here and get the first book from the books of the food, songs of the vitamins. Let me see. Let's type in my name. EnQi. Oh, yeah. See it come up right there. As soon as I type my name in, did y'all see that? It came up on the bottom. Let me see if I type in Dr. EnQi. Will it come up? Oh, yep. It comes up again. It's right here. Yeah. So I typed in EnQi Real. It popped up. I typed in Dr. EnQi. It popped up. Let's see what happens if I type in books are the food. Books are the food. Oh, it does not pop up. Okay, let's see if I press enter, what happens. Okay. So it depends on how you search. That's interesting. Wow, I am not on this search. That's crazy. And these don't even say books are the food. These just books have the title that the word book and food is used in the title, but it doesn't say books are the food. Mine says books are the food. What? Let's try that a little bit better. Books are the food. Songs are the vitamins. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so we type in the whole joint, then I'll pop up. But yeah, that's the first book to get from the series. And this book is not on Amazon. So you have to go exclusively to Barnes and Nobles to get this book. Yeah. So that book is there. And that book is number 1. This book right here, if you look right here up in the corner right here, Books of the Food, Songs of the Vitamins, this is book number 2 in that series. So this is a series within a series, right? And then we have Books of the Food, Songs of Vitamin number 3. And then we have a very interesting book here, right? Which is also a part of the series, right? Comedic Meteorology. It's a part of the series. And then, oh, okay. So that's the end of this whole series. So this series stops at 47. Okay, and then I have, okay, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, yeah, so these books. Rich Abs, Poor Abs is the first book in this series. But then we got Melanin versus Diabetes. Yep. So this is another different series, right? This right here, Hip Hop Children and Novice Biochemistry. These are meant, oh shit, I don't put this in my damn car. But these books, this was the first series that I wrote. So there's a lot of information in these books. A lot of mistakes too, but there's a lot of information. like especially on having babies and doula and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's all deep in here. Children's stories with the science, all that. My kidneys book, you see the kidneys book is a part of the Melanin versus Diabetes series, the MDR books. So this is the first series. Well, this is the first adult series that I put on the internet. So this only got 8 books, right? So you got Melanin versus Diabetes, book number 1, which you could tell I didn't know what I was doing yet, because book number 1 is listed as volume 2 and book number 2 is listed as volume 1. So I definitely didn't know what I was doing yet, but it all worked itself on out. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you definitely need to have these 2 books. The 40-Day Fruit Fast book and the Kidneys book, you have to have those. And then these are all classics. These are all classics. You know, we haven't really sold a bunch of anything, but this is still our best selling book out of all the books. No matter what, we get people who's curious for melanin versus diabetes research. People that I don't know, that you don't know, like they just search melanin diabetes research and that's what pops up. But yeah, so that's 3 book series, right? This series has 8 books in it. This series has 6 books in it, right? So 8 plus 6 is 14. And then what did that other book series have in it? How many books was in there? 47. So we got 16 plus 47, right? 16 plus 47. And then we got, we got a bunch of these series on here. That's the thing is, if y'all not moving around, yeah. So then we go over here, and in this series, we got 88 books. So how many I said so far? It was what, 6 in one group, 8 in another group. That's 14. Then we have 47. So that's 51, 61. And then we got 88 books over here, right? So 61 plus 88, that's 89. Yeah, so we almost at 160. We had 150, 160 books right here. And then I think there's a couple more series. I can't, yeah, there's like 2 or 3 more series, I believe, that I have of books floating around from this run. Nah, you all good. Listen, I'm glad you asked that question, because you got 39 books, but is somebody gonna watch this video that ain't got no books? And that right there is gonna take them to Amazon and they'll get their first book. You know what I'm saying? So that was a great question. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the question. I'd be looking forward to seeing Kev in the chat. Kev always has a great first chat. It's amazing. Appreciate you once again. Yeah, sometimes that's what they do with my books, because, you know, so Amazon is a social media type of page. I don't know if y'all know that about Amazon, because we look at it a certain way, like Walmart or Macy's, you know, is Amazon. But Amazon is like very social media-ish behind the scenes. Everybody that sells any kind of product, Amazon always is encouraging you behind the scenes. They got like 20 different ways you could pay them to promote your product. So things that you're thinking is just like regular might not be regular. You know what I'm saying? And I don't pay for no stuff. I don't pay for no searches. So when you search me and I come up, that's just on the hard work and your support, period. But I'm not paying for any clicks on Amazon. Not to say that I haven't, you know what I'm saying? Not to say that I haven't, but I did some test runs. And, you know, I'm sure that I'm going to say 60% of it was user error. I didn't know what I was doing, you know what I'm saying? Or how to really, you know, whatever. But the risk to reward ratio, it didn't seem like that big of a deal, even though I will continue to do it because I think that, you know, it puts you out there in a certain type of way. But I think it's something that you have to afford. I think if you have any type of business and you be thinking like, yo, I'm gonna put this $100 and promote it on Instagram, and that's how I'm gonna make 1,000 or 10,000 or 1,000,000. Like I'm gonna get rich because I'm gonna promote this on Instagram. Everybody going like that's not it. And that ain't how it go. Every social media page that charges you to share your post, they got at least 1 billion other people that they're doing the same thing with. So, you know, my advice is always to just focus on whatever it is that you're doing in real time. Just deal with that. You know what I'm saying? My page is growing slow. You know, some of y'all been here since this was the new page. We started at 0 after I lost my last 3 pages. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, if you keep on talking and people want to hear what you're saying, eventually it'll grow. You know, or dancing or sportsing or building wood blocks or whatever people are doing, because doing wood blocks seems to get people millions of views now. People just be like getting a log and turning it into a statue and saying anything while you watch the person making the statue. I haven't been on, today's my first day on Instagram in probably like 2-3 years. You know what I'm saying? So I got caught. I dipped into like a 40-minute, you know, when you hit the timeline and you scroll down one time and you look at your watch and it's like 3:30 and you strolling and somebody say your name and you look down and it's like 4:15, that kind of thing happened. I was like, see, this is exactly why I stopped using Instagram. Instagram is like heroin. I don't know. Instagram is addictive. I mean, they all addictive, but I guess some work more so on some people and less so on others. Anyway, I didn't intend on being like long on the stream tonight. So my point that I want to get to, I keep getting back to. My point is that if a person does not know enough about their body, right? And I always say this, you could be misled, right? But the dangerous thing is where some of these people that are out there thinking this crazy stuff, like some of them I know is lying. They just scammers. So they just trying to poach customers and run it up and do whatever they do and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, you know, these are the same folks that were selling $1.50 bags of herbs for $75 during the COVID. You know what I'm saying? So what I don't expect more from, you know what I'm saying? But I'm realizing like people don't, like it's worked. The suppression that people sensed, which, you know, I don't necessarily fully credit to like conspiracy theory, which is the reason why we go back through the timeline. Because I think that in instances and pockets, you have certain things going on. But I think the overall overarching, the white man is out to get us. Yeah, I don't think it works exactly like that. Especially if we're doing the white man. Like, that gets hard to even narrow down. Do we mean the Irish man or the Italian man? Or are we talking about the German? Or are we talking about Yugoslavian or French or this one or that one? Like it gets crazy. You know what I'm saying? And all of that is a part of the conversation. I don't know how much of the conversation we'll get into, but this is why the song German Engineering, I think, is important. Maybe we should play this song a little bit. So we could run off the people who leave when I start playing music. Because there's some people that watch and then I start playing music and they leave. Like this literally, like I always see it, no matter what. 2 to 3 people. If we got 40 people, we go to 37. When I start playing music, we had 37. You know what I'm saying? So I'm cool with that. I'm cool if they stop coming. You've heard me say that God is music so many times. So even if you don't believe that, or you haven't studied it and come to that conclusion, if you hear, to some extent, you should respect me enough to understand that that's what I'm on. So for me, separating from music is insane, right? And as I dug into this, right, because I dug into this. I first got angry, then I had to sit down and really like dig into this. And I'm like, wait a minute. I believe the devil has tricked most of you. I believe most of you are tricked. I believe most of you are tricked, and your quality of life is suffering because it. And your relationships might be suffering because your quality of life is suffering, and you have a sadness that you carry that will come into your relationships that you're not even consciously aware of. It's just the same as vitamin D, right? Vitamin D, okay, when they first, let's do the vitamin D story for a second. When vitamin D was discovered, right? Because when we talk about certain things like historical stuff, a lot of times, especially in America, because in America, Black people are so angry about, what they think they know about slavery and blah, 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 and the white man holding them down or whatever. There's certain history and scientific conversations we should be having that we're not having because we need to spare Black people's feelings, right? On the flip side, there's a lot of conversations that we need to have, but we can't have them because white people, we've got to spare white folks' feelings because they ashamed that great granddaddy was eating, they was out there eating niggas. I mean, what we want? What are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like it's what it is. You know what I'm saying? That might have been my great granddaddy out there getting eaten, and it might have been your great granddaddy out there eating. I mean, what are we gonna do? We are not them. We got their genetic material, but we're not them. But we can't act like the yesterday. And we definitely can't allow what happened 50, 100, 200 years ago to stop us from going forward today, right? To stop us from going forward today. But we have to have certain types of uncomfortable conversations across the board. You can look at your government, for example, right? Republicans, when Republicans got the office locked down, they do some good things sometimes. When Democrats got it locked down, they do some good things sometimes. But if we look back historically, the great things that we can attribute to our government have come from what's called bipartisan, when the Democrats and the Republicans works together, right? So, and I guess this might have just been God, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you see something randomly, but it's not random. I don't believe in random or coincidence. You know what I'm saying? So even if I'm doing a random action, I stroll in the timeline, I believe that everything that I strolled through, I was meant to see. And one of the things that I saw was a white guy in a ski mask with gold teeth. Now, once he had the gold teeth in, I'm like, hold up, stroll back. Because I'm strolling, I'm passing. So I strolled past it and was like, oh, what was that? I went back up. I'm like, wait, what is this? And so it's a white guy, and he's out there. He got a big sign. And he's attacking the government because, he's like, yo, we letting these foreigners come in here and get government aid. And like, yo, Black folks been waiting online for that for like 300 years. Nah, how we giving it to these folks and we ain't my babies might not grow up and marry or have kids with the Mexicans or the Arabs or these people who just coming in here because they see them as foreigners. But black people, the adults could think what they want, but the kids, white kids love black kids love white kids. They look together at other groups of kids. So you will have a white kid, a white boy and a black boy sitting there looking at Chinese folks talking crazy. Like, yo, look at this foreigner, blah, blah, blah. They going back and forth. They don't even know. They're like, look at this guy or Arab guy or Filipino or whatever. I'm not singling out Chinese folks. I'm just saying that. And not that racism is gone. It's just we in a different era now. You know what I'm saying? It's a different era. And so when I'm watching this white guy, he was making a lot of sense. He was like, no, how we treat each other's kids we can't get away with it. And he was mentioning Biden, you know, with the 94 crime bill and all that. And he was like, look what we did to black folks with the crime bill. And we thought locking up black folks and woo. No, we got to treat black kids like we treat our kids, or the black kids is going to rob our kids. He was going off, but he was making a lot of sense. He was going off, but he was making a lot of sense. And, you know, obviously, I just pulled that into my universe. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, you know, we got to get to this space where people is working together to really make progress. And when me and Rob did our thing and we had the lecture and the mayor and all that back in New York, some of y'all remember, that's what our whole thing was. You know what I'm saying? It's like, in order for America to have a cohesive healthcare system, the trainers, the herbalists, the naturopaths, the medical doctors, the surgical doctors, like everybody has to be on the same team. And in the back of my mind, I think that those conversations that me and Rob were having are now the blueprint that RFK and Trump is on, because some of Rob's friends in New York that he introduced me to, these are billionaire, you know, he introduced me to a couple of billionaires he was running around with, and they run around in them circles. So I know they listening to me and Rob talk at the time, looking at us like unicorns and taking it back to, you know, wherever, you know. And at the time, you know, Rob is getting into his, you know, politics and all that. So, yeah, there's a lot, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot, but I really just went live tonight because there's not a secret album dropping at midnight. I know some of y'all don't want to check like EnQi line. There's an album dropping at midnight. There's no secret album dropping at midnight. There's no secret book. You'll wake up in the morning, you missed the book. No, I came on because people don't know the essence of life, right? If you don't know that, I'm still teaching health information. You don't know the essence of life. And in fact, look at this. This is perfect. I was getting ready to write something like this down. Not exactly these words, but something to that perspective. And the funny thing is that in America, it's supposed to be a Christian place. You know, past the Christians, it's supposed to be a Muslim and a Jewish place, right? But some of these issues and ignorances that I see, you know, people have or questions or whatever, it doesn't fit with your religious program. Because I say God is music. I would think that if you got some beef with that, you would cross-reference that with your material. Right? And if your material say that the universe began with the word, I would think me and your material is kind of like almost like on the same page. We might not be like same time on the same page, but we like almost right in the same neighborhood. Right? We like right there. So here's the thing. Am I spelling that right? I'll be getting into my, anytime I have a fat marker in my hand, is that pausable? Is that slightly pausable? Every time I have a fat marker in my hand, though, I get into a graffiti bag. My mind immediately goes into a graffiti place. But this is our universe. This is the nature of our universe. Okay. Now, for some of y'all at home, I either misspelled this word or you just can't read it. The word is oscillation, right? Now, some people are more comfortable with this. Vibration, right? And in many conversations, the vibration word will work, right? Because these are kind of synonyms, right? These are kind of synonyms, right? They can be used at time as synonyms, but they're not exactly synonyms, right? Because vibration typically is going to be some, typically, now this is not how, it's not like a hard rule, but typically vibration is going to apply to dead in a scientific sense, right? Oscillation is going to apply to live things and crystals. And so oscillation works better because, well, you're a live thing, and crystals is literally how your body is made out of crystals. This is literally what your body is made out of. Your body's piezoelectric because of this. Go a step further. This is what is suggested for you to eat, right? When they're saying you need to have X amount of vitamin this, or even more specific, like the minerals, right? You've got to have your calcium, your magnesium, and this and that and the other, right? So you get into the pocket of crystals and bringing crystals to life, right? So you have live things oscillate, you have crystals oscillate, and then you have a interrelationship where when we're exploring what it means to be alive or conscious, these will separately interact with each other in whole different types of conversation, right? Because we can have crystal type of things that still we would not regard as our definition of alive, right? So there's conversations, there's a lot of conversations, a lot of pockets in there that we need to get into, right? But in order to really go any further with health, you have to come to us. That's why I didn't mind doing all of the hard work. Let these guys, let them go to, what is that, Puff Daddy channel and get, more views. And now what? You selling herbs on the network, the Puffy network, before he go in for the cat. I was so happy during that whole situation that I was not in certain places. Because I remember when, okay, so I don't know if y'all know these people. If y'all don't know these people, you know, but there's a rapper in Cali, his name B Dot, right? B Dot is friends with another rapper who was really like tight with Puff and did a lot of ghostwriting for Puff. And so Puff was like taking care of him. Could be looked at as a weird situation, but no, he had a beautiful wife, beautiful family. I spent a lot of time with them. And his name is King Los. So I spent a lot of time in King Los' house teaching his moms and his wife all of the, you know, how to cook and the recipes and the different alkaline, this acid, boo, whole thing, right? And then we had some situation where we went to a nightclub one time, and in the nightclub, it was just like, it got weird. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at ladies and girls that's close to my age. They're in my pocket. They, you know, it was something else they was into. I just leave it like that. And so we left the club, and then they was going to another club. And I was like, no, I'm going to the house. I'm taking it down. But anyway, at that era, it was like, in that time period, it's like, yo, we getting ready to go meet up with Puff. You need to come with us, and we go hang out with Puff. And woo. I was like, yeah, I'm going to the crib. Right to the crib. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so I look back in hindsight sometimes and be happy that I wasn't somewhere that other people might be like, man, you should have been over there. I'm like, I was where I was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere reading a book or writing a book, chasing down my babies. You know what I'm saying? Keeping me safe. Yeah, keeping me safe. You know what I'm saying? But to get back to the music, right? Because this is crazy that people would like be so uneducated, and not even uneducated. Let me say unsophisticated. Because if you're making hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars by selling people herbs, like you should, after, you know, maybe you hustling, faking it at first, but after a year go by or 2 years go by and you decide you want to really do that, you should take that serious, right? And if you don't understand that music is the essence of the construction of the human body, like this is your concrete. This is your concrete. Think about that. Think of your body as built with bricks. This would be your concrete. This would be your concrete. And this is the thing that makes the thing from no thing. The thing that makes from no thing is also this thing. Right? What's the thing that makes from no thing? The thing that makes from no thing, there's a few that we could consider, but the main thing is energy. Because without energy, there's nothing. Right? And when I say energy, I mean power as opposed to the information side. Power and information are tied together, but sometimes one is more important than another. Right? But that's how you get something to go from what? Potential energy, right? Inertia, resting, not moving or still or whatever, how we want to look at it, to, you know, using force or transferring force and then transforming that potential energy into actual kinetic energy, right? All of your bones, all of your DNA, all of your bones, all of your DNA. This is how they work. If you are 35 years old and over, you have to have this conversation. If you're eating healthier, right? If you're exercising, if you're trying to live longer, you have to have this conversation. If you are in the I don't give a F group of people, you don't really need to have this conversation, right? Whatever kills you is probably going to be a surprise, and you're going to pretend like you ain't whatever. You know what I'm saying? You just, yeah. Hey, listen, I tell people all the time, the Bible only said 144,000. It's billions of people here. So even God had no intention of saving everybody. So I would definitely be doing too much if I thought that I could save everybody and God can't, right? So The people though that are trying to live longer, some of us gonna die anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had the best bonus 30 years of, you know what I'm saying? But this is something you got to know, because most of the people that pass 60 years old, this is the problem they have. They don't know about this, any of this. They don't know about this. They don't think that this is health information. They put this type of conversation, they mix this in with chakras, right? So this is another thing that prevents people from really joining us and studying with us. If you don't spend time with me, some of the things that I say, you won't be able to make sense out of. And so it might turn you off, right? You won't be able to listen to me explain how chakras are fake, and then oscillation, crystals, vibration. I mean, if we playing word game, if we playing conscious word game, you automatically could guess what's the next word. What's the next word Iggy's putting on the board? Frequency, like you know what I'm saying? But John Q public that doesn't really know much. They just know of these things. They think these things belongs in the same place. This is one of the main reasons why I start attacking the chakra thing, right? Because as long as I thought that people thought chakras was, like a hobby, you playing with it, like people play video games all night, but they don't think the game is real. You see what I'm saying? Like, they playing Call of Duty all night, but they turn it off and go to work or go to school because they know Call of Duty is fake. People was playing with chakras and they think that's a real. I'm like, ho. Then I'm starting to listen to goofballs like Sanchez and some of these other guys just saying crazy things like, oh yeah, this is how your body interacts with light. And yeah, how could your body interact with light if you didn't have chakras? And I'm like, hemoglobin, neuroglobin, cytoglobin, myoglobin, eumelanin, pheomelanin, neuromelanin, and forget about the opsins, neuropsin, melanopsin, cytokine, like that goes crazy. Panopsin and all the different opsins, that rhodopsin, like that, the opsin list is crazy. Like, and then you get to mechanoreceptors and neurons, and there's so many different cells. Every mitochondria interacts with light. Light stimulates mitochondria to produce melatonin, right? Melatonin is not melanin, but melatonin is anti-cancer, right? It'll help you live longer, right? So I'm just saying, like, the ignorance part, right? So this is where we have to go, though. We can't, there's a glass ceiling, and there's a certain point where you can't learn anymore. You can't learn anymore. There's nothing for you to learn. And I don't mean you, but I mean somebody that's put maybe at least 15, 20 years of dedicated study to their thing, whatever they got going on with the health, right? You learn the anatomy. I mean, that's the anatomy. You got 10 toes, 10 fingers. What we doing? Like, 10 toes, 10 fingers, your liver, spleen, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, you start walking it down. That's what it is. That's the body, unless they discover a new body part. Like, we done discovered a few over the last few years, you know what I'm saying? But those are here and there. And as long as you know the whole body, when a new body part gets discovered, you can kind of figure out how it fits into the body systems and all that. And you can even see sometimes mistakes that we have, like how people may have been ill affected from the ignorance or whatever the case may be. But this is something totally different. This is something totally different. And it's only us. That's why I got to get y'all support. You know what I'm saying? If you're not subscribed to the channel, I got to get you to subscribe to the channel. If you are subscribed, please unsubscribe and resubscribe. You know what I'm saying? hit the Patreon, hit the Cash App, hit the Super Chat. It is us doing something that's, I mean, the impact we can't even count in our life. We won't even be able to count the impact of what we're doing with these classes and books. Like, we gotta be dead and gone. That's when we'll know what our kids do with these books, what they kids do with the books. You know what I'm saying? Because the books will be here long after we gone. All right. So oscillation. Right? Oscillation. This is a thing. When we go back to Kemet, this is a part of the Kemetic concept of life and death. Because, you know, in Kemet, they don't have a context of death in the same capacity as Americans or Europeans. So their thing is about movement. And so once the body stops moving, that's that. That's not the end of life. That's not death, right? That is just like the butterfly leaving the cocoon, you know what I'm saying, and going on to another level of life, another level of living, right? But oscillation is everything, right? Oscillation is everything. Now, without even going like deep into the body, right? We know what? We know a few things. We know that all matter, right? All matter and flesh is made from atoms. And what did we hear about atoms? What did we learn about atoms? Let me make sure y'all can see what I put on the board. What did we learn about atoms? We learned that an atom, y'all see over here? Okay. We learned that an atom got the nucleus, right? And then around it, it got some valences, right? So that's our understanding pretty much of an atom. Now, it's evolved a little bit, but the basics, the mechanics haven't really changed, right? This is old school. From here, we go through Schrodinger and Pauling and all those guys, and they change it to an electron cloud, and you know, we get wave function equation and blah, blah, blah. So we get more clarity and depth and understanding. But our working models, we have to remember that this is not something that people touch. You cannot touch an atom. It's not a thing, right? You can't. So when we first started learning about what atoms were, all the information we learned from scientists and in schools was incorrect. If you was born, when I say us, I mean as a people, right? If you're alive in that era, early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, if you're alive then, even in the 1800s, the development of the atom was absolutely incorrect. I mean, the concept was correct, but the concept is not a modern concept. The concept starts with Atum. The concept starts with Kepler, right? The modern concept, absolutely, totally incorrect until you start to get closer, right, to an idea that has less to do with matter and more to do with the other side of reality, right? So there's a side of reality that is particles. There's another side of reality that's waves. Peyton asked me earlier if I watch my own lectures. I don't have time to. I can't watch it because as soon as I shuttle off the video, I go back to typing or making a song or trying to, you know, like study something, or I got to take this one to school this way. They got a thing, or somebody got a sport thing that way or that. Like, I don't have a, you know what I'm saying? I got to go all forward, all gas, all future. My past, I got to contemplate on, keep it mental. For everything else, I got to go forward. Now, every so often, people will talk about a video and make me go back and look and see what I was saying in the video. And and maybe bring that forward and do another similar type video for people that may have missed it, or, you know, put the information in the book if people still don't understand it, or, you know, if I see that people, if I see people like it because it's entertaining, because I get that, yo, you was mad funny, I'm like, oh, okay. But if they be like, yo, that joint was crazy, that was deep, you went into this, and this, I'll be like, okay, let me go back to that. I might have to revamp that and bring that back. But there's so much more that we got to cover. Like, we not in review time. We still got a lot of, it seemed like we covered a lot because it's like 200 books, but I promise you, there's so much more stuff for us to cover. Like, this is a whole new thing. Look where we at right here. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Everything that we thought we knew about atoms is incorrect. See, it's me. I got the do-rag on. I got my Scully on. You know what I'm saying? Gold teeth. This is not the package that people is used to having a conversation at this level with. Like, that's not it. You know, up at midnight on YouTube. Like, this is just all very, like, it doesn't seem like it should be, but it is. That's the God thing, right? But this was totally incorrect. Trying to understand the world in terms of physics, and physics boils down to particles that are called atoms. And they taught everybody in the world that everything is made out of atoms, right up until, you know, a couple decades pass, and then they learn, oh wow, the atom is 99% empty space. So how can something be made out of something that's nothing? See, we have to address the nothing conversation, because nothing is really no thing. And we think that nothing is the absence of a thing, but nothing is not the absence of a thing. Nothing is the absence of a physical thing, is the absence of a tangible thing. But the unseen that governs the world, this is where you get concepts like the spook and all this other stuff, right? So we get these pictures of atoms. We get the idea that atom is 99% empty space. And guess what? That's also wrong. That's also wrong. And whose research is that? Dr. EnQi's research. That's one of those things that if you read the books, we discovered. Like, oh, this doesn't work. And I'm going to propose a new theory to replace the old theories. There's no such thing as 99% empty space in an atom. The thing is that atoms are so small that we don't attribute space to them at all because they're so small. For us, there's no room in an atom. There is no space in an atom, but that's our scale. Get it? That's like for Saturn, there's no room inside Earth. Saturn is way too big. Earth is too tiny. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like Shaquille O'Neal trying to get into one of them little tiny electric cars. You know what I'm talking about? The little tiny. He can't. That can't go. So there's no space for us in an atom, right? So it's hard for us to conceptualize it. That's number one. Number two, obviously people learn atom stuff as basic school stuff. But one of the pockets of information that, you know, we talk about in these books, that's why you need these books, is electrostatics, right? And this is the part of the conversation where it's like, no. If y'all been with me for a while, y'all know there's been plenty of times where I'll be like, man, some of these books is remedial for me. I don't enjoy everything we talk about because some of it be like going back to first grade, reliving like at, bat, og, dog, hog. Like that's how I be with some of this health stuff. I'll be like, for me, in my mind, I'd be like, Johnny hit the ball. Come on, everybody. Can y'all say ball? And then folks is like, oh, that was crazy. And then I gotta, in order to keep everybody motivated, I gotta make like what I said was deep too. Yeah, that was crazy. In my mind, I'm like, man, we got a long way to go. If y'all thought that was crazy, man, we in trouble. Right? But So remember, we just having a powwow tonight. Tonight's not really a video. It's not something that I was planning. This was just a spur of the moment kind of thing, right? So here's the thing. And for you guys that have the Black's Anatomies books, you guys are the guys that know better, which is pretty much most of my audience, right? There's a few people watching that. Who knows where they're watching from. But here's the thing, right? And what was the thing that I just said? Oh, I said electrostatics, right? Electrostatics. How do I enter this combo? Okay, so remember, I don't know if y'all remember, but I be speaking to the handful of folks that do remember, and then y'all that don't remember, you catch up, right? But remember, we was having a conversation, and I was like, the funny thing about gravity, right? The funny thing about magnetism, the funny thing about light, right? Well, actually, it's really more just gravity and magnetism. We're gonna bring light up out of there. Right? Light is its own enigma. But now we know why light is an enigma, because light is a phantom. Light is almost like, I can't even say not a real thing, because it gets into a super crazy quantum theological conversation. But when it comes to gravity and magnetism, right now, magnetism is kind of like written in stone in 2026. 400 or 500 years ago, it wasn't, right? One of my first, I guess, personalities that I got deep into, because that's kind of how I start teaching myself a lot of this stuff, is I would, read about general stuff, and then if I find a character that I like, then I would study the character, you know what I'm saying, and see what I could learn there, you know what I'm saying? So Paul Dirac was somebody I studied, you know what I'm saying? You need to look up Paul Dirac. If you've never heard of Paul Dirac, you missing, because Paul Dirac is a big boy when it comes, in that era of the era of science that we're living in is from 1850 to 1950. That 100-year window, that's what we still living off that. That's quantum, that's electromagnetism, that's black body radiation, that's discovery of blood types, all that's between not even 1850, let's go more specific. From the time the slaves are free, 1865 to 1940, that little window is when the massive discovery began. Before the slaves was free, everything on the world was going like that. Now, am I saying that the speeding up is something to do with the slaves or melanin or black folks? Nope. I'm just saying these are facts. 1865, Civil War, whoop, that starts the money going, right? See, war starts money moving around because people want to buy weapons. And not only do they want to buy weapons, but usually in war, you want to out-weapon the other person. So not only do you want to buy weapons, but you want to take money and invest in somebody making a new weapon that's better than the weapons you got. So this is why the Germans, when they was doing their thing, they was winning the first part of the war, because America, Europe, nobody had radar. The Germans was the only ones with radar. So they only needed one plane. One German plane could take out mad other, you know what I'm saying? Because they got radar. They know where you at. They can see you. You can't see them. They can see you. You know what I'm saying? And so this is where a whole new era of technology comes from Hitler. This is one of the secret reasons why they bring the Hitler scientists here. You know what I'm saying? Now, for conspiracy theory purposes, we like to go into the Americans is the real, whatever, we go in that bag. But the reality is, during that war, Germany sunned everybody. they showed everybody that one country, one person really could take over the whole, conquer the whole world. Conquer the whole world. And Hitler almost did it. Hitler almost did it. They don't credit the enough anyway. The black pilots who they was like saying that they was doing some type of like jazz flying or whatever it was, but the black, they had a rhythm, a certain type of way. So they had a higher survival rate than other types of pilots. Go figure that out on your own. Don't argue with me. But the main thing was the nerds. The nerds is who brung Hitler down. Okay? It's Stanford University and Harvard University. Stanford University, Harvard University was sequestered by the government during that time period to figure out what was it that the Germans was doing. And so I forgot the story, but they stumble on to a part of the technology, bring it back over here. Stanford, Harvard, they get to it, crack the code. All of a sudden, America and everybody else got radars. And very quickly after that, they wrap homeboy up. Boop. Because the radar, if you got radar and nobody else does, you got to think, that's not just plane fighting. And at that time, plane fighting was the highest, that your air fleet was more powerful than anything else, right? Now we got it to where the drones is the thing. Now your air fleet doesn't have to have humans in it, what I'm saying? So it makes your air fleet even more dangerous, right? No loss of life, just loss of equipment, or enemy combatants, whatever the case may be. But my point is, right? They had to figure out that radar. Because he had that advanced technology nobody had, missiles, airstrike, everything. The Germans was killing everybody. They was unbeatable. Now, where did they get the technology from? That's another question. And that's a deep question, because that's when we go down a theosophical and an esoteric road to the black sun, and just this whole huge, crazy conversation that I don't want to open up. But my point is to say, out of that war, out of the need to figure out microwave technology, aka radars, right? We get something called Microwave Valley, right? When the government sequesters the nerds to help, they bring in the nerds. The first part of the war, they got all tough guys. So you see a lot of cigarette smoking. They got the white T-shirts with the shirt folded up with the Marlboros in it and all that. And they showing the tough guys is winning the war, like that. Tough guys was getting washed. It was the nerds. Okay, they had to come back and get the nerds, the geeks. And when they got them, they needed everybody. Like, yo, contact anybody you know that you think could break codes, or they smart, or they know tech, or we need everybody. Don't worry about nothing. We paying everybody. The books are open. You anybody you know, you get them. So you get this area where all these people collected out Cali, out West Coast way. I don't know if it's Cali. You'll know exactly what I'm saying in a second. And they get out there, all these smart folks from Stanford and Harvard, they out there doing their thing. And they figure it out. And once they figure it out, they win in the war and all that. But the camaraderie amongst the scientists and the doctors and the scholars and the tech, all of those, they had already formed a family out there with the Microwave Valley. So they start calling it Microwave Valley. And everything out there was about microwave technology and radars, and that was a big thing. After that technology went stale and cold, that's where you get the guy, Francis Cress Welsing washed. He's the guy who wrote the books about the bell curve, William Shockley. He's a part of that. And he's super racist and all. You know what I'm saying? With kinetic origin patents that his kids still eating off of today. But once that all goes, it turns into semiconductors and I erased it already. Semiconductors. So we go from microwave valley to semiconductors. Semiconductors is where we get to start making like microchips and, getting deep radios and all that kind of stuff. But it starts with the semiconductor. Semiconductors and technology are the same selenium that your cell, the same selenium that they use inside these laptops to make what did I just say? Semiconductors is the same selenium that your body uses to form antioxidants. It's the same selenium your body uses to form anti-cancer agents or whatever the case may be. When you look up selenium and you hear all these different benefits, it's the exact same selenium. So while the rest of the world, they were looking at, who's the guy? Who's the selenium guy? The selenium guy is Joel Wallach. Joel Wallach is a guy who believed kind of similar pocket to Dr. Sebi. Similar pocket, that minerals could cure everything. You know what I'm saying? And obviously we know that minerals cannot cure everything. But man, just because they can't get everything don't mean they can't get anything. Minerals are very powerful, changing your health, right? So anyway, right, we're having this conversation. Don't think we're drifting, right? Because it's a lot of stuff. We're talking about history and all this stuff. That's why it gets expansive. That's why I stay in my lane. I go into history or economics only as far as it applies to the health. If the stuff that I'm talking about now wasn't like, I wouldn't even know it if I didn't somehow crash into it doing research on a more specific health thing, right? But with these earlier concepts of the body being electric and having the advantage of not being a quote unquote Sebi person, even though Sebi's a superhero for me, but I'm ostracized outside that group. I didn't fit into that group. I'm coming down. When I first started going to lectures on 125th, the National Black Theater, I'm still bringing like 5 and 6, 7, 8 dudes from the neighborhood. Like, and we're not doing the thing like some other guys was doing. Like, hey, look, I got guys from the neighborhood. Stand up and let everybody know who you is. Nah. I'm like, don't even let them know you with me because I don't know these people like that. So just come down there and, learn something, you know what I'm saying? And watch me. Make sure I'm, straight. You know what I'm saying? But so my mind wasn't even where it is now. So that allows me the vantage point to respect other people who may not have as much time to, you know what I'm saying? So microwave valley, they start getting the semiconductors and all that, and then it becomes Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley is how we beat the Nazis. It wasn't Silicon Valley yet. It was called Microwave Valley. All these things you can look up. Right? Now, went into all of that because it is the unseen that gives man his power. Hitler felt almost invincible because he stormed down into the holy whatever, where the Pope got, he went and got spirit destiny and all that, and he running around, he thinking spirit destiny that made him unbeatable and all that. No, spirit destiny just gassed you up. Like it the mind is a powerful thing. You know what I'm saying? So that got him going, but that's not what empowered him. What empowered him was his blind focus, which could be attributed to having, some relics and some other stuff they was into. But no, it was the radar, having that technology. Now, where did they get their hands on that? I have no idea. That's where it gets, right? But that's the thing with technology. Just to scale it back a little bit. That's how war brings money in for technology, right? Because you not only want to have weapons, but you want to have weapons better than the other guy's weapons. So you start looking for innovation, right? The thing about Earth is everything works how it works, and there's no new stuff here. You get that? Everything works how it works, and there's no new stuff here. When you go through the periodic table, right? each element, and this is the hardest thing for people to get, because we have been taught, like, you got to get into Harry Potter. Harry Potter is the best thing to learn. I know that may sound crazy, but Harry Potter's books teach one thing, that there are unmagical minds in the world. And those unmagical minds in the world do not get along with magical minds. The rest of the stuff in them books is, but that one concept is because that's what we're dealing with in the health space. And I'm going to show you, right? So when you get to the periodic table of elements, and this is very important for our music conversation, trust me, I'm a little sleepy, so I haven't forgotten anything. I know exactly what we're talking about because I want to get to my points and then hit the power button. Instead, we ain't put no music on. If you notice, I ain't even play the whole intro. We just gonna get through this. Now, each element, this is one of the super important things to know. Each one of the elements has something that it does in the unseen world. Each element has some unseen talent. We would put it like that. It has some talent in the unseen world of energy, right? Now, how do we know that on the basic level? Because every element does what? It absorbs light, and then it releases electricity. Or it absorbs light, and then it re-releases light of its own. And that light is how we identify elements. All right? But yeah, it can get to where atoms, they're playing with stuff and they're getting the atoms to do electricity and sound and blah, 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 blah. But that's because when you get to a certain space, light, magnetism, etc., it's interchangeable. And this is the thing that I was going to tell you about these guys. That's why I left them here. They don't have a unit, right? If I ask the unit of electricity, you would say the unit of electricity is an electron. If I said, what's the unit of light? You would say a photon. If I ask you, what's the unit of gravity? What you gonna say? A graviton? You could throw it out there, but somebody might slap that right. Have y'all seen that new tennis guy that be jumping up in the air, dancing on the tennis court and all that, hitting it up? You might try to say that graviton is a unit of gravity. Somebody gonna spike that joint. Like you gotta watch that new tennis guy. He a black guy too. He out there going crazy. But there's no actual unit of gravity. And then there's no unit for magnetism either. There's no unit. The unit that creates magnetism is also the electron. The electron is responsible for magnetism and electricity, right? We know that the electron is responsible for electricity. That's common sense. But moving a charged particle, right? Electrons, proton, electron-proton balance. Moving a charged particle creates magnetism. The electric field of the particle, electric, right? The electric field of the particle moving creates magnetism. Or you can have like a thing like iron, right? And iron is magnetic. Well, the reason why iron is magnetic is because, like we talk about structured water, inside a iron, magnetic iron, any magnetic metal, all of the electrons in the atoms that make up that metal are all lined up in the same direction. That's called crystal lattice structure. The same thing I'm saying. In crystals and our body, these points just keep coming back. It's a crystal lattice structure that gives your body piezoelectricity. It's crystal lattice structure that allows your DNA to get information and share information. It's crystal lattice structure that makes an iron, like a magnetic thing, magnetic. It's the electron structure, how the electrons are lined inside that magnet. So There's no individual unit for this. There's no individual unit for, right? If you get one electron will create magnetism, gravity, electricity, and light for you. So there's a lot of back closed door debates that are happening in the science community with some of these bigger topics that, like I said, they're not going to come out and say, this is not whatever anymore. They're just going to put new theories forward, and they'll feed the new theories, and they'll move away from the old ones. So you'll see some stuff they're just going quiet on. They ain't been going crazy on gravity, period. They haven't even been talking about gravity much when they talk about black holes now. And the whole purpose of the black hole was to support the gravity theory. It's looking like the black hole theory going to outlast gravity. And that's where black holes came from. Black holes was to explain gravity. Now, gravity getting ready to go on into the grave, and black holes are still in the building. Because what did they do? They transferred the pull that's supposed to exist, that's pulling everything in the black hole, from mysterious gravity to spin. To spin and potentially magnetic moments or magnetic fluxes in plasma, right? So other explanations for the behavior they attributed to gravity. Anyway, my point though is that just like the elements, right? Everything to some extent, especially if it's alive, it has other stuff going on with it, right? And this unseen talent is the thing that is driving the biology, that's driving the biochemistry, you know. And although Dr. Sebi got a lot of his blueprint from Anu Eret, there's a lot of stuff that, like, for me, I know where I can see like, oh, okay, now Sebi came up with all this. But that's because I've studied Sebi intently, and I've also studied Elijah Muhammad and Anu Eret intently. Elijah Muhammad and Anu Eret are Dr. Sebi's largest influences. So if you take How to Eat to Live, Volume 1 and 2, and you take Anu Eret's book and you put them together and you read those 3 books, you're going to have 80% of Dr. Sebi's information is going to come from How to Eat to Live, Volume 1 and 2, along with Anu Eret's book. Put them together. Woo. But there are some things that are not in those books, and I go, oh, this is Sebi's thing, right? So this is where you can see Sebi studied his predecessors, and then he went and started doing his research and his work, and he was healing folks, and he was learning, and blah, blah, blah. So now his understanding is growing past his predecessors, right? And if there's somebody that's watched me my whole time, they're going, oh, yeah, we remember early on, yeah, EnQi was definitely pulling a lot from, you know, T. Owens Moore, Richard King, and Dr. Africa, and Dr. Sebi, and a whole bunch of folks is gone now. You know what I'm saying? But then there's a spot where you go, oh, wait. Yeah, no, that's, yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. That's not, that's, yeah, he's coming up with his own, you know, this is now your growth based on your start, you're going, right? And so Sebi came with the Ogun thing. Sebi came with the Ogun thing. And when I stepped out and I said, okay, I'm going to deify Dr. Sebi, right? I'm going to deify Dr. Sebi. I'm going to show him the ultimate level of respect, but I'm not going to chase his money. You know what I'm saying? Because I have children. And what I'm doing, respectfully, after I'm dead and gone, even my dumb kids, and I'm not, when I say dumb, I mean they just don't know the information. They might be geniuses in other areas. But even the kids that's totally ignorant to what it is that dad does every day, I still want them to be able to feed themselves if they have nothing else off of whatever I leave them. So I can look at some of Sebi's kids, especially the dumber ones, and be like, nah, he's still supposed to be able to, You know what I'm saying? Like his dad made this and left this. Who else supposed to, you know what I'm saying? So I don't go that far. It's just a matter of the respect and pointing in a direction because people miss it. You know what I'm saying? I had heard everybody from people who was Dr. Sebi's business partners, people who own stores with Sebi, people who say they knew Sebi longer than I was alive, and all these stories I listened. All these stories I listened to. I never heard one person ever, not one person mention Ogun and Dr. Sebi. Never. They never said the two words together. It's not until I'm in Mama Pill's house the night before we going to meet up with Nick Cannon and do the documentary. I'm in Mama Pill's house. And we're literally, me, KT, and Larry in her closet, pulling out all of the old papers from the court cases and all that. You know, and I see Ogun Research Institute on the paper. I go, Mama Pill, what's this? You say, oh, that ain't nothing. That's Sebi's. That's the name. That was the name of the thing, you know. Now he got the fig tree, woo woo. People know that, but no, back in the days, it was Ogun Research Institute. I'm like, you not see. Listen, if you not me, respectfully, you don't know this information well enough to judge what I think is important that the people need to learn. Right? There's people around Sebi. And I'm not singling out Mama Pill. I love Mama Pill to death, right? But I'm saying there's people around Sebi that didn't understand. They didn't make the connection to listening to Dr. Sebi's lecture. If you listen to Dr. Sebi's lectures, there's one element that he promoted, only one. When it comes to the periodic table of elements, there's only one thing he promoted, which was, well, actually, is a few, but his main thing is this. Everybody knows this is the main thing Sebi is on. Iron. But nobody had put together that his program is built around iron and he got Ogun Research Institute. So when I start saying Sebi is the deification of Ogun, he's the manifestation of Ogun energy, everybody was like, oh, you a fake Haitian because Ogun is not the herb god. I'm like, so? Did I say anything about, did I mention that? No, because you were saying that Dr. Sebi is the god of herbs. And I said, can you pull up a video and show me? Say, I never said that. See, if you don't listen to me, you don't listen to Sebi, you don't know what we're saying. You're just making assumptions. From getting the deep insight to what Sebi was looking at, and what he was looking and what he was chasing is what I got going on. If he was still alive, I mean, he was old. So he probably just would not still be alive. Right? Because Sebi was up there. But let's just take age out of it. Let's just say people live indefinitely. He would definitely be doing, he would be on this. He would be on this because he's talking about magnetism in the 80s. And he's saying that our bodies were missing magnetism, not the iron. Not the iron. See, people was dumb. They've not even listened. But see, that's the thing. You don't see with your eyes and you don't hear with your ears. People that was around him, they didn't understand enough of the science and the body to really grab hold to these jewels. Even the kid, even KT, is stuff that I tried to explain to him and he couldn't even get. Like now he's trying to get some stuff later, you know what I'm saying? But at the time, he like, nah, I don't think that's it. I'm like, no, I'm certain that's it. 5 years later, he like, oh, that was crazy. Where did you get that from? I'm like, here. He's like, well, yo, I got these reports that say you was correct and blah, 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 blah. That's how me and him started getting into the research shit back and forth. Because I would say things that he would think would be outlandish. And then 2-3 years later, or maybe even 6 months later, he would read something on the internet and print it out and come back to me and be like, look, this proves what you were saying is right. I'm like, I don't need to see that damn paper. I knew that what I was saying was right when I told it to you. In fact, the reason I told it to you is because I was putting you on game. Now you coming to show me a paper. I'm off that. That was 24 months ago. I'm on. Oh man, let me show you this over here. Let me show you this over here. Right. So Sebi was talking about not the iron. He was talking about the magnetism. This is what I want to separate from y'all. This is what we spent out 90 minutes to get to. This is that important. If you don't see the importance, it's because you don't understand enough. Just like the people that think when I talk about music, I'm not talking about health. I'm talking about health at a level that you're not used to ever seeing or hearing. Right? So here's the two things, right? Here's the element. The element is iron. What's the unseen talent? Magnetism. Magnetism. So I'm watching, and this is years ago, I'm watching old clips of Dr. Sebi, and he's saying that he learned something on the Navy ships about the magnetism. And this is why I was always mad that Sebi was telling people not to read books. I was like, see, that's that scammy day. That's that hustler part of him. But there's a lot of metals that our body uses. Let me pull this up real quick so you can see what I'm saying. There's a lot of metals that our body needs, right? And I'm not saying he was 1,000% correct, right? But what I'm saying is, because of his interest and because I could see where he was going, it started me to looking in certain places that I probably wouldn't even looked at because it sound ridiculous. It sound ridiculous. Let me see. Periodic table with metals. Yeah, metals and non-metals. Here we go. Boom. Can we get a good? All right. We did not want to click onto a video, but we would like to see. Oh, that's what that is. Boom. Okay. Damn, this is another video? All right. Well, y'all just got to look like this. Y'all just got to look like this. Right? Look at the periodic table. Hopefully y'all can see that. Man, where is this at? I want to get this. I'm going to have to steal it on my own. So I want to see this big. Okay, I guess that's as big as we can get it right there. That's as big as we can get it. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm on the other side. Bam. Okay. So this is as big as we can get it. Now you look right here. Look at this color right here. This is all of the metals. And these right here are metalloids. So they almost metal. Look at this periodic table. Almost everything on the periodic table is metal. Almost everything on the periodic table is metal. Right? Almost everything on this table is metal. So this bugged me out. This bugged me out because nobody was talking about food and periodic table like this. He was saying that you need the magnetism to grab hold to the other metals, and the other metals function best in the lead of iron. And so he explaining, you think anemia is just your hands cold, feet cold, whatever, but no, you short on magnetism. And when you short on magnetism, all the other metals rely on iron to get where they're supposed to go and do what they're supposed to do. And for the most part, that's kind of like accepted science. It's just he used the word magnetism instead of iron. So I caught it and was like, oh, got you. He's not saying that you need iron to go into the heme groups to latch on to the oxygen atom and deliver the oxygen to the myoglobin and blah, blah, blah. He's not saying that old textbook shit. I mean, textbook stuff. He's saying something totally different. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That kind of makes that, I'm on that. So I jumped in. I'm all over this. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that made sense. You know what I'm saying, for me. And then obviously some of y'all know, right? Once I start looking, you know, the other thing that got me interested and kept me interested anyway was the fact that for me, I see Kemet right here. Now, I've had some people that look right here in the middle of the periodic table, and they also see Kemet, right? And then I have some people that say, EnQi, you need a vacation, bro. If you see anything inside that periodic table that look like somehow it's Kemet, that's because you need a vacation, champ. You to a hammer, everything is a nail, right? And so everything is becoming a nail. But for me, right in here, and who knows? Maybe there's some weird something or other. Maybe it's not, right? Maybe it was just the motivation and momentum that I needed to keep studying and find out some other stuff that is real and does work for the, you know what I'm saying? So, but here's what I was looking at. You know, start with the W, right? Then you have Ray, right? And then you have Osea, right? You have Osea right here. So you have Ray. You start with the W, right? You have Ray, then you have Osea, and then you have Ptah right here. You know what I'm saying? So I seen that in the middle of the table, and I was like, oh, either I just discovered the most craziest thing ever, or this is just a message from God. God is like putting breast, you know, like people that's really, like there's men that's breast men. They call themselves a breast. I'm not a breast man. But for a breast man, if you put nice breast on anything, it'll hold his attention. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like this might have been God in that capacity. Like, okay, yeah, he'll see this, and this will keep him looking. You know what I'm saying? He'll figure out some stuff. And, you know, so I did. I started to look at stuff and notice some anomalies. You know, like hydrogen over here in its own place, which is very interesting. Closest thing to hydrogen has to be put the furthest thing away from it, right? Because we're getting into duality. And by, you know, so there's that. But then also, what was interesting to me was that, so there's a electronegative way. Like when you look at the periodic table, you could look at it like a compass. You know, a compass basically is telling you where's magnetism. John Q. Public says the compass points to the north, but the compass is pointing to the north because it's magnetic north, and your compass is iron, like I just finished talking about, right? So that's what a compass is. It's going to point to the magnetic north, right? Which is technically south, I think, was another conversation. But up and to the right is where you have the most electronegative elements. Remember, each one is different. And electronegative means that each atom, see, I'm learning this stuff. Each atom acts as a magnet for electrons. I had no idea of this in school. Each atom has a different amount of strength, right? And the strongest ones is up and to the right, right? I'm going to show you on the periodic table in a second, but up and to the right. Just keep that in your mind. Up the chart, to the right. So the elements that are higher up on the chart attract electrons to them stronger than the ones at the bottom of the chart. The ones that are all the way on the right of the chart attract electrons to them stronger than the ones on the left. So the one that's all the way on the right, that's all the way at the top, is the one that has the strongest attraction for electrons. And that's the one that's poison everywhere. And so when you hear people talking, they saying things that's correct, but they don't know why they're correct because they don't know the science part about the electronegativity. But electronegativity is where the fluoride is at. So fluoride is really a nasty customer, but it's not a nasty customer because all the conspiracy stuff you heard on the internet. Fluoride is a nasty customer because it steals the electricity out of your body, period. It steals the electricity from anywhere because fluoride, or rather fluorine, is literally it's the strong, let me pull it up. But it is the strongest atom to pull in electrons to it, right? And then even when I'm learning that, it made sense because all of matter exists because atoms are pulling electrons to it, right? And then depending on how the electron joins into the atom's family, right? Think about a man with multiple wives, right? So a lot of polygamists use atoms. I've had my polygamous and not polygamous, errors. I get the philosophy. Sometimes it can work in your situation. Sometimes it, but atoms, right? They have to attract electrons to them. And then there's a bond formed between their electrons and the one that they just attracted, or the ones that they just attracted. And depending on whether we get ionic, covalent, or some of the other newer bonds that they've been, discovering now, because back in the days, it's only ionic, covalent. Now there's a few different types of bonds. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, well, these only happen in the lab. These happen in rare instances. There's more, right? But depending on how they bond determines what type of compound or molecule you got. And obviously, if we don't get complex molecules, we don't get life. So this is the health stuff at the highest level, right? Now, let's look at this periodic table so we can move on. Now, this is a periodic table that's really just used like I just used it. If you want to be able to look at the metals, the non-metals, and figure some stuff out, because there's a lot you can learn just by placement, right? So over here on the left side, these are earth metals, right? Some of them are alkaline, right? But these are earth metals, right? So these have health benefits. So these two over here at the farthest part, francium and cesium, I believe this is on top of it over here. These are the ones that's used in cancer research because they're able to wipe out cancer cells for whatever reason, right? But it has to do with their location, right? Because when they're located, the opposite of this F right here, the same way that F is the fluorine is the strongest at pulling electron, right? These is the strongest at pushing it. So they have an opposite effect. So you could see how these will have a toxic effect on your body. And these, by proxy, if they're the opposite, they should kind of have a beneficial one, maybe anyway, right? And it actually is working that way, right? But you learn a lot of stuff, especially when you see what things are, right? So you look at this and you go, oh, that's hydrogen. I need hydrogen, water, hydration, right? What is this? This Long Island. Okay, cool. I don't know what that is. But this one under it, this is salt. I got to have salt in my diet. And then this one under salt, potassium. So this is how my cells, this is the basis of my cell right here. The basis of the periodic table is the basis of my cell, right? Because I'm going to have water. And then inside that water, I have to have sodium and potassium in order for the cell to become electric, period. In order for the cell to become electric, it has to have sodium and potassium. That creates balance. The one that really makes it electric is the salt, the sodium, right? Sodium, the more sodium you add to water, the more it increases the water's electrical potential. The more salt, the more electrical potential. And you say to yourself, wait a minute. So are you saying that the beaches? Absolutely. That's why there's a difference between beach water, ocean water. Ocean water can feed life, but ocean water can't create life. Beach water can create life, but beach water can't feed life. If you eat something out of that beach water, you might drop dead. You eat something out of that ocean water, you might be all right. Even if this water's polluted, you all right in that ocean. Don't worry. Nature's working on that pollution, even if you're not. You know what I'm saying? But that salt water, and trust me, it's not even going to be an AIDS needle in the salt water that get you. It's going to be the fact that we are mostly liquored up and caffeine people. So we're already walking around super dehydrated. The last thing we need is some salt water, whatever. And you know what I'm saying? So no, there's a balance. Now, can life in some instances come out of the ocean? Absolutely. Can we eat some stuff out of salt water in some instances? Absolutely. You always have exceptions to the rule, but that does not change the rule. You understand what I'm saying? So you got to know these things, right? So you got your hydrogen joined with the salt and the potassium. Now you got an electric fluid, right? Now you got electric fluid, right? Which is pretty much where all the electricity in the cell is generated from. Because remember, the cell is just a little bit of water, a little bit of cut off water. So it's private. Now, when we get to the next row, right? When we get to the next row, we have your magnesium right here, right? Then you have your calcium, and then you have your strontium, then you have your barium. Now, barium is interesting because barium is dangerous for people with cancer, but people with cancer, they give them barium so they could do x-rays and all that. So if you know anybody with cancer and they got to get the barium for the x-rays, just tell them to drink some coconut water after they do the test. Barium is an antagonist of potassium. So if you have a little bit of potassium and you put some barium, the barium will flush out your body's little bit of potassium that's left over. But on the flip side, if you have a little bit of barium in your body and you put a bunch of potassium in there, the potassium is going to flush out that last bit of barium out of your body. So I've literally saved a life before just with a phone call. I was like, no, go to the supermarket right now, get as many coconuts as you can take back to the house and just be on that. Just be on that. And do what? Pray. Pray and drink coconut, eat coconut, everything, unlimited buffet. Go. Next morning, yo, bro, it's crazy. We straight, yo, I gotta thank you so much. Periodic table, right? So, you get here now. Ooh, it's going wild outside. Shit. You close my door. It's going wild out there. We be having the wildest weather. W, Michigan. Michigan is wild. Anyway, you get to the next line here. Right? And that's how the families are set up. So each one of these rows is a family going up and down, right? So from hydrogen down to France and this little family. From beryllium down to, what is this? Radium, I think maybe. That's another little family. And what is this? Scantium down to, what the hell is this? Actrino. All these ones down here at the bottom and these down here, these is fake. Well, not these. Some of these is real, but these down here is definitely fake. So that's why you don't really hear much about these. These are only important for scientific endeavors because these elements are, for the most part, created in a laboratory. They're not found in nature. So to keep everything in order without making confusion, they don't attach these to nature. And even when there's empty boxes and they discover new ones, if the new ones is lab and they're not the natural, it don't go up here with the natural. It go down here with the lab stuff, right? Oh shit, lights is flashing. Pray for us out here. So anyway, there's this, right? And there's some research that says this little family right here responds well to vitamin D. And I see my lights blinking. That's, yeah, it's wild out here. So the weather is messing me up, stormy up. Okay, so we go back to the first one, right? I found out that mental health patients was getting prescribed this right here. When I said Long Island, I said that on purpose to come back to it. The Long Island is lithium. This blew my mind because at the time when I found out about this, I'm like, yo, this is a regular, like, this is regular. This is in mad different foods. Like anybody that need this, they don't need a prescription. You can just start, you know, like you can get some of this and this, and then I was getting mad excited. You know how you get when you first start learning stuff. But yeah, I learned that lithium was actually like a prescribed drug. So that was a thing for me. We get over here, right? What is this? Lanthanum or lantanium or something. This word, I think this is lanthium, this right here. But lanthium, they was using that along with cesium and francium for different cancer experiments, and they was having some success. So there's some stuff over here in terms of how these things interact with electrons, right? It's all quantum mechanics, right? Even here in the second row, you got magnesium and then you got calcium, right? Now, magnesium and calcium is bones. So I start to looking at other stuff. And sure enough, I find out that this one right under calcium is better than calcium at making your bones strong. So if you're an athlete or you're getting older, instead of going to buy calcium supplements, you should get this right here. SR for senior citizen. Yeah, senior citizen. Get the SR, right? That's strontium, right? Strontium is good for your bones. Yeah, strontium better for your bones than calcium, right? So just learning stuff like this about the chart, you know what I'm saying? My little Kemetic. Then I had the when I was in the Kemetic bag, that's when I first started learning about this little area over here, right? When I got in my Kemetic bag, so this whole area, this large area in the middle, right here, like you see where it's high up here, and then this valley, these are the peaks, and this is the valley in the middle. In this valley spot right here, these are like your transition elements, right? And your transition elements are typically transition elements. They all have something weird, usually with hydrogen. Like transition elements have talents when they team up with hydrogen. I don't know. You gotta look this stuff. Right? Some of this stuff I'm talking about 20 years ago, going through this stuff. Right? But I found a lot of stuff. Because see, this is where I learned about vanadium right here and chromium for diabetes. Yeah. And I'm just sitting here going through this. Like, some stuff is coming back to me. I'm like, man, I might need to pick up the periodic table again. We might need to dust this, but we're doing it now. So people that don't tune in, they'll miss it. Or they'll catch the replay. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, this is vanadium and chromium. Vanadium and chromium, at one time it was believed that they help out diabetes. Now it is understood that these two minerals are required minerals for your body to be able to process glucose. And so it's not that if you have diabetes and you start taking these, they're going to help you with your diabetes. But on the flip side, if you have a diet that has no vanadium and chromium in it, you may develop diabetes or diabetes-like symptoms. And so if you then get some vanadium and chromium, the symptoms will disappear, and it'll look like, oh man, I got rid of my diabetes, or I cured my diabetes. Well, that's one of the newer types of diabetes. See, that all goes into the ignorance. This game is rigged. So if you're a person who believes that there's only two types of diabetes, well, then you locked into being lost. If you know that there's multiple types of diabetes, right? Temporary types of diabetes, then you know, just like a woman can get gestational diabetes, you can get nutritional diabetes. And so because you're lacking the nutrition, you don't have the process. That's because each one of those items that we call nutrients has unseen talents. They do stuff with stuff, you know what I'm saying? And we need some of those things to happen, right? Or our body's not right, right? So anyway, vanadium, chromium, then you get over here, and this is black. This right here is black magnesium, right? So these is brother and sister. Magnesium and manganese. Magnesium is white. This is the white guy. This is the black guy. Yeah, twin brothers. Yeah, one is black, one is white. All right? And manganese, we had to do a whole class on manganese, but it's in the books. Nothing I'm saying right now is not in the books. If you have the books, then you're straight, right? But so you go vanadium, chromium, manganese, and now you're starting to get, now you get into the big boys, right? Because these two right here is the big boys. When I started learning about cobalt, I started learning that cobalt was like baby iron. Yeah, cobalt is like baby iron. So this gets crazy. And then a few years after, I learned that nickel even gets down with iron and cobalt. So this is like a trio right here. You know what I'm saying? This is a trio. Even though they don't really talk about nickel, because you have nickel in so many different foods that nobody ever really needs to take nickel to have nickel. But some people can find themselves deficient in rare instances. But cobalt and iron, people are always deficient in these because your body's always, well, women are a little bit different, but for the most part, in general, people are always deficient in these. These are very common nutrient deficiencies, iron and cobalt, right? And you at home family, you know cobalt under a different name called B12, right? This element right here is vitamin B12. Right? Vitamin B12 is not even a vitamin. Vitamin B12 is actually a mineral disguised as a pigment. It's not even disguised as a vitamin. You know, you could say it's a mineral disguised as a pigment, or a mineral disguised as a blood cell, right? But that's what B12 more closely resembles, because it has a porphyrin ring, which is the basis of pigments and being able to absorb light and convert it and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, this is where you get here, right? And obviously the next is copper and zinc. And then you see copper and zinc together. And the crazy thing is that copper and zinc are just like this, how you see them side by side. Inside your body, they're ops, but because remember, like I was saying, the beryllium and the potassium is ops. If you have one, it'll flush out the other, or vice versa. Same thing with zinc and copper. But in certain enzymes, they work together, right? So you have superoxide dismutase, which is a very powerful antioxidant enzyme. It works with copper and zinc, and some of them even have magnesium in it with the zinc, or magnesium with the copper, right? But copper and zinc work together like, you know. So that's interesting. You see what I'm saying? Like all these things have very interesting stories. And then when you get in here, this is the I'm about to say the gold. This is the platinum group metals here, right? This is the platinum group metals. So this is where all of the esoteric, magical, quote on some of the stuff that's just chakra talk and craziness, but all of those minerals are right in here, right? Here's gold, right here, AU, silver. What is this? Palladium, platinum. What is this? Rhenium, ruthenium, osmium. My favorite, iridium, rhenium. And now this will be a much larger conversation, but a lot of these so when I was into this when I was making Mom Atomics. So all this is if you on the Mom Atomics, so don't ask me tomorrow, like, yo, hey, so what you made to get this is how I made Mom Atomics. This is how I saved Amber. You know, figuring out this damn periodic table. Or not figuring it out, just learning a few little pieces. Right? Anyway, as we work our way to the right, this is where the electron magnets get the strongest, right? And so what was interesting to me is that this is the side that's most strongly attracted to attracting electrons, right? And so the crazy thing is, this is where your body is at, right? Because remember, 99% of your body is made out of what? Chon, CHON, right? This is your carbon, this is your nitrogen, and this is your oxygen right here. Boop. So it's interesting that your body requires atoms that pull electrons. It's very interesting, right? And then you have phosphorus right here. So you don't have DNA, you don't have ATP, you don't have brain cells without this guy, the one that produces the light, right? That's also over here in this non-metal, super electron attractive. Now, let me say this. This last line, we could talk about it, like we talk about helium a little bit and all that, but this is fake line. This is invisible. Don't really talk about this. These are the atoms that they don't interact with any other atoms. So you don't have to worry about these for the most part, right? So effectively, for most chemistry, the periodic table stops here, right? Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, right? And here's your iodine. Here's your CMOS, right? Here's your algae. Here's your iodine right here. And then look right here. Here's your selenium, right? Here's your bromine, or your, what is that? Bromine? This is the thing that's in the bread that they tell you to stay away from. The reason why this is in the bread and they telling you to stay away from it is because this is a family right here. This is a family, right? And you don't need to really be consuming this, right? Chlorine, you only need a little bit for your stomach acid, right? And the thing over here is this bromine, this is going to mess with the iodine. And the iodine is going to mess with your thyroid. It's going to mess with your mitochondria. It's going to mess with your appetite. It's going to even mess with your brain. If you're trying to make babies, it'll make your babies stupid, literally. It's one of the reasons why iodine got added to the salt. Because people, it was killing, like it was so crazy that, they had to make sure everybody got it. Right? So anyway, there's a lot that you can pull out of the table. There's a lot that you can pull out of this table, especially once you start getting the families down packed. Like you see oxygen, sulfur, and then selenium right here, right? This is the reason why we have Alzheimer's. Part of the reason, right? Part of the reason is because we have complex molecules that have oxygen in there. And when the inflammation levels go up high enough, the oxygen gets replaced by sulfur. And when the oxygen gets replaced by sulfur, the electrical activity goes down. And so you effectively start shutting down areas of the brain. And what is one of the ways that you can increase inflammation in the brain fastest? High levels of sugar. Right? All right. Anyway, boom. All right. So there's that. Right? And now we've been talking for 2 hours and it's 1:30. This wasn't the plan. So my point though, right? And we're going to wind this all the way down right now. And I'll leave this up and people can watch it and go back over it or whatever. Fast forward the first 10 minutes of me just talking. But here's where music comes in. Right? Here's where the music comes in. Here's where music comes in. If you haven't caught it yet, because I done told you at least 20 times through the course of this video where the music is coming from, we'll be more specific now. Right? We'll be more specific. Okay. Light, magnetism, that's it. So the Holy Trinity: light, magnetism, electricity. Everything that we know of, including the atoms that we just went through, are made and sustained by these three items. So we don't have an item in the known universe outside of these. Not in the natural known universe, right? If you want to get to anti-this and all kinds of antimatter, that's all that lab stuff. Like I showed you at the bottom of the periodic table, that floating rectangle block, that's all fake. That's lab stuff. Those ain't the real ones, right? But when we get into these things, right, because these things operate outside the other side of our world, right? Remember, in Kemet seen the world, the universe, as all waves. All waves. The Western world, they came and they have a more solid view. So everything is under this pretense. That's America and Europe. Now, modern cutting edge is starting to move in this direction. Right? And this is after a discovery that's pretty much 100 years old now. Double slit experiment is almost 100 years old. Double slit experiment is almost 100 years old. What does double slit experiment tell us? It tells us that this is duality. Tells us our ancestors were sharp. They was correct, right? But also it tells us that this is duality, right? This is the binary. This is the two, right? And the two is what? A manifestation of the one, right? So when you get into the wave side of the world, right? The conversation is not going to be about compounds and molecules, because those are not the way that waves come together. Particles come together in compounds and molecules. Waves do not. Waves operate in a field. Like in a little tiny atom, there's a cloud. Well, let's put a lot of clouds together. Now you got a field, right? Period. You have a field. So there's a different way we have to even discuss the nature of reality once we move from particle to wave. And this is a look at the future, because the world is going from particle to wave. all new technology, quantum computing, and all roads going this way. Because they learn, and guess what? The electron is not an actual thing. It's this. And it's more this than this. Yeah, we can collapse the way, but it's more this than this. The wave function got to be collapsed before you get here. So technically, reality is here. And that's what our body's development is for. The development of life. We don't often talk about that when we debate and have arguments like with or evolution or whatever. We don't really talk about the why as much. It's for these things. Our physical body has developed a magical material called pigment. The magical material allows our physical flesh matter body to interact with all the other stuff, the things that go bump in the night, all of the wave stuff. And the pigment allows us to convert waves into particles in our body. And backwards, if needed, right? But when we start to deal with fields, right? Fields don't have a movement like fields don't move through space like particles. Fields don't move through space that way. Fields become space. They'll fill out a space, and then there's space, and then you go through that space and you're in that. Like if you got fog, that's a low-flying cloud. Okay, well, you're in the cloud till you get out the fog, right? So a field moves different, right? A field moves different. And what composes a field? Waves, particles. Waves and particles. And so when we get into fabric of reality, we start talking about light. And we get deep. Oh, God is light. Everything's made out of light. And it's vibrating light that makes, matter and blah, 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 blah. Cool. I'm not mad with you. I have those conversations, and I don't even feel the need in those conversations to assert myself and be like, well, hold up, young, you could go to another level. I just let folks do what they're doing because it's accurate. It's just not the end of the story, right? Because light is not a thing in of itself. They found out, why you walking around at 2:00, boy?
Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. Big songs don't hit cause they lyrical only. They hit cause the brain get lonely. Simple hooks loop to the nervous system, know it. Ghosted the body singing for the mouth notice. That's dopamine science, electrical timing. Prediction and reward, the whole brain chiming. Every replay deep in pathways inside them. Now the song becomes your identity wiring. Travis made darkness feel cinematic. Drake made pain sound smooth and attractive. Post made loneliness melodic and passive. Uzi made sadness feel floating in magic. The greatest hooks are fun drivers. They compress the emotions down to one-liners. The body love patterns and repeated fixtures. That's why crowds scream songs back like scriptures. DJ, electric grills. My favorite song give me chills. In my skin, it mean I'm lit. For the song, it mean a hit. Also, I'm noticing God made dopamine. So I'm high, cause I'm focusing. Music is God and the Go between a sentence and repentance. A verse to get your soul redeemed. The body hit a baseline first. Pain make the whole song work. You can feel it till it hurt. That's why the whole world replay the verse. Heartbeat move with the drums. Nervous system go numb. Music ain't sound where I'm from. It's electrical waves through the lungs. Bass hit the rib cage, chest start shaking. Low frequencies literally move sensation. Heart sync rhythm through entrainment. Now the whole crowd breathing in synchronization. That's why arenas cross the spiritual fine line. 10,000 nervous systems on one timeline. One hook, one tempo, one guide. Music turns separate bodies to one hive. The best songs leave room in the production space. Let the listener emotionally function. Too many sounds create mental disruption, but emptiness let imagination touch it. Reverb make memories more like.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap it up. All right. All right. So, field interactions, right? Field interactions. And again, if you have the Black's Anatomy books, where are those books at? Those books are somewhere. Oh, here's one of them. Okay, yeah, here's one. Okay, I'm finding Black's Anatomy. Okay, here we go. Look, you got the main book, right? That's the main Black's Anatomy book. Then you got this one, right? You have to have these because it's in these books specifically. Here's another one of the Black's Anatomy books. This specifically on page, all right, hold up. As soon as we get in, here we got observation. Okay, we start right off with the Beatles, kinetic naturopathy. This book, it's not even this book. Damn. That one. So we have 5 Black's Anatomy books. It might be this one. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is my favorite one. Yeah. Is this it? Let me see. I know more about what's on the inside than the outside. No, this ain't it either. That's interesting. No, it's got to be in one of these books. Maybe it's in this one. Hold on, I'm gonna find this because now I'm, now I'm looking. But it's in one of these books that goes deep into, oh, maybe it's this, self-organization. Is that you? Self-organization. But it's in this book series that we go deeper into quantum field theory. And we go into quantum field theory from the perspective of Kemet, which is very interesting. Okay, wait, is this it right here? Logic map from field to form. Okay. Oh, no. This is me breaking it down. This is our paper. Okay, so this is the book where I have our white papers, because we have our own scientific journal articles. Okay, so I have a few of our white papers that we produced at this time. Yeah, I can't do this right now. This is a whole universe. But the point is, right, in these books, we go through the comparison between QFT and the Kamenu, right? Quantum field theory versus Kamenu, right? Right? Quantum field theory comes from here. But this is also the source of what? The ogdode for the Greeks, that became what? The octave for the Romans, music, right? Those same 7 plus 1, that 8, is the same set of vectors in quantum field theory. They're the same set of vectors. In fact, I was talking about this debating Unc, and nobody even knew what I was talking about. Let me see if I can pull this up and show y'all. I can show y'all better than I can tell y'all. Let me see if I can find this damn thing. I ain't going to keep looking if I can't find it, but if I can find it. What's this? Oh, yep, this is right here. Boop, boop. You see, is we going to behave ourselves tonight? Is we just going to let people share the share screen with no issues? Boom, 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 boom. All right. So do y'all remember this? If y'all seen that debate, do y'all remember this? Because look, you see that slide, literally, that is a book, right? And so when we're going through this, I'm sharing this information. Hold on. This whole video is me trying to explain to y'all the musicality of health, right? Like I said, I'm gonna wrap up soon, but remember, we had this, and we did the whole jaunt with the music. Where the music at? Play that music. We forever changed the game. After I did that debate with Unc, everybody started playing music, making music, playing, and nobody as good as us. But music is a vitamin. And we got to go back to that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of y'all let the devil run y'all away from music. God is music. So y'all be going through whole days. Y'all be going through whole days where y'all don't listen to no songs. I feel sorry for you if you have whole 24-hour periods where you don't listen to music, yo. I would suggest you try that before you look for anything. Before you look for a vitamin or a mineral, you need to find your music. If you're going through days where you don't have music, that's crazy. That's the same as missing your iron for days. Like, how you not gonna have iron? You need blood every day. How you not gonna have music? You don't know what music do to your body. You don't understand it. And guess what? There's a $1 trillion effort to make sure you never learn it. Because the real power on earth comes from music. If we don't learn the secrets of music, we don't learn how to make lasers. And lasers is at the root of a lot of our technology. For us to build things and for certain types of light, and we need laser technology. Where does laser technology come from? The descriptions of Moses and the boys in the Bible with the ruby and all that, they come from right there. Because the first laser is a ruby laser. Right? So the earliest concepts that we have written down is, they're right there. We can see them. Right? Just is what it is. Right? But and this is just all nature. This is natural, right? What is a ruby, right? A ruby is a mineral. What's a mineral? Mineral, in a certain context, is a mixture of elements. And that's where it gets confusing when people have health conversations, because most people just say, oh, your body needs minerals. And your body does not need minerals because your body doesn't use minerals. It's euphemistically, I know better, but I say it because most people, they don't know better. So they need that. Like they need minerals. They need to hear that. But technically, our body breaks minerals down and they either go in the pee, the poop, or yeah, we break it all the way down to atoms because that's what our body uses, individual atoms. When we're using iron, we're using individual iron atoms. When our body is using calcium, it's using individual calcium atoms. When we're doing iodine or whatever it is we're doing, our body's doing individual ones, one at a time. One. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this is what I was talking about, the quantum field theory. Right? See, this is the second slide. Right? And so I was showing, you see the 8 vector points, right? 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 See the vector points? Right? And so what I was explaining in the lecture anyway, in the debate, was the origin of how what we consider modern science is stripped down theology. But to think that there's no science in theology would be a big mistake. Big mistake, because we don't have anything today that's been developed independently of theology. We don't have any science, not one. There's not one science known to man that developed independent of theology. Not one. Right? So, this is the essence of quantum field theory right here. And this is exactly what your ancestors were explaining to you about the Kamenu, right? So even in the video there's a video for one of the songs. I think it's the legendary source material, but it shows that the quantum soup. So this would be considered the quantum soup, just for the people that's not in the know, right? This would be considered the checkerboard soup, right? The checkerboard, rather, would be considered the quantum soup, excuse me, right? But here's the thing. The checkerboard in and of itself is important. Because I know y'all like, well, why is that there, right? See, everything in a scientific diagram has a reason for being there. The checkerboard is very important. Now, the people that they don't know no better, they'll be like, oh, EnQi saying that, because, EnQi be on that Masonic shit. Excuse my language. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's all right. Baby's supposed to be asleep for their last day of school, right? But they be like, EnQi on that Masonic. You know what I'm saying? EnQi just saying that. Oh, he's just saying anything. That's Masonic stuff. But no, it's actually, and this is one of the things that points back to Kemet, because yes, today Solomon's temple floor, right, is a checkerboard, a chessboard or a checkerboard. The origins of that, just like the rest of the craft of masonry, like I've been explaining to people for the last years, I don't know how many, all comes from Kemet. Now, if you have this book, it's in the book. Do you have this book? If you have this book, all you got to do for yourself, is open up this book to page 311, right here. Solomon's floor, right? And here we go into the MIT article and all what they were doing. But I have this book in color. Shout out to Helvey. And I'm going to find behind this book so I can show you in color with my hand. Man, I should have put some music on for y'all. My bad. I got the big, super crazy birthday gift. These hardcovers they all color. So this book is immensely more valuable when it is in full color. So if you have the bread, I would definitely treat yourself. I would treat myself to one of these books. Now the page count is not the same. So everything is not on the same page because obviously the pages in this book are so much more bigger. They can get more words, so less pages. Man, but the color, look at the color, bro. This is so crazy. And it's loaded. We going nuts in this book. We going nuts in this book. Come on, where is... Man, there's so much good stuff in here. It's crazy. Yeah, I need to have this. Oh, let me just look up the... the hi-hat and it's a hit. German. Okay, here we go. Page 183. Wow. I didn't go that far down. Okay, boom. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see that. Yeah, y'all can see that nice and clear. Look at that. See, in the color book, look how clear that is. That right there is called the Shrine of the Nobles. That is the Shrine of the Nobles. And you see the ceiling? That is the origin. That's the origin of where the chess floor and the checkerboard floor and all that comes from. So don't throw away hot touch. Don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Don't throw away the baby with the bathwater because you think you know something, but you may not know what you think you know. Man, I got another book. Is it another book or is it in this book? Oh, the sea mosses came out so beautiful and clear in this. And it's a lot of room in here on certain pages for you to like take your own notes and stuff. Like this is a really nice book. For yourself though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I put a lot of color pictures in here, which still came through in the other book. You know what I'm saying? It still came through in the other book. But just not exactly the same. And some of these things, it's like, see this? That's crazy that I even found this, because this is what we're doing now. Look at this. Think about when I put this book out. When I put this book out, nobody even knew what this was doing here. Look at this. See that? What is that? What is that? That is a pair of headphones. So So if you have this book, you can see it on page 376. On page 376. If not, over here it's going to be, where we at, in the 400s? Let me see how this drawing looks. Let me see how this drawing look real quick. I got some wow. Oh, okay. So here it's on page 577, and it's much smaller, but you can still see it very clearly over here, right? Headphones. And what I'm doing on this page, is I'm comparing different pigments and how they absorb light. So here we have the usual suspects, right? This is the absorption charts. We have the absorption chart down here for one of these guys. All of your red, right? All of the stuff that's in your CMOS, your carotenoids, right? Your blues, right? And the one thing you'll notice when you look at this is that all of these different pigments, their absorption chart goes like this. It goes up real high, down like up and down. It's like that. It's like mountain peaks, valleys, all that, isn't it? That's not the same when you see melanin. That's what looks weirdly different than other pigments. The melanin just goes like that. It just got that. Yeah, it just go like that. So that's super crazy that it doesn't match any of the other known pigments, right? It's wild. All other pigments like this, melanin got that smooth up curve, but it gets even crazier. It gets even crazier when you find out that the melanin absorption, it looked just like the sun curve. So the melanin curve looked like the sun curve. I was done. But even here in this book, I say, the sun relationship, the chart, lower energy expenditure, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we spent a good bit of time going into melanin. Oh, shucks. I had no idea I even put this in this book. It's so much stuff in this book. This book is loaded. I had no idea that I had this in here. You see these words here? This is the bar and pet. I had no idea we was talking about that in this book. Bar and pet is a very secret thing in Kemet. Because a lot of people, Kemetic scholars, will tell you that in Kemet, they didn't know anything about iron. I found out that wasn't the truth. I found out in Kemet, iron was a holy. I was like, wait, what? And then, of course, in my mind now, I'm like, hold up. Sabi must have been on to something. In Kemet, they was doing something with the iron. And then Sabi came with something with this iron thing. I'm like, okay. So the iron thing must have been popping. That's clearly what's popping. Is the iron thing. Oh. I know we hit a high. and the bass and the kick and the hit is a drink. German. Okay, there we go. So the reason those headphones is there is because melanin also is melanin is even better at absorbing sound than light. And so when we think about melanin, we only think about the light part. But melanin is just as nasty when it comes to absorbing light. I mean, absorbing sound. And that's the thing that makes melanin so masterful, is because light is dope, but light has less utility than like sound, mechanical waves, because your body is full of stuff. So mechanical waves drive most chemistry in your body and outside your body. The biggest initiator of a chemical reaction is two chemicals bump into each other. It's mechanical waves. It's mechanical force pushing them towards each other. Then once they bump into each other, that's mechanical force, new ripples across both of their bodies and out into the medium they're in. Like, yeah, chemical reaction, right? So if you punch me in the face and I fall down, it's like a large scale of a chemical reaction. Or vice versa, all right? If I hit you in the face and knock you down, that is like a big version of what a microscopic, like, so if I hit someone, they fall down, that's like an atom bumping into another atom, and then the one that got knocked out is the one that lost his electron. So remember, we talked about how certain atoms are stronger than other ones at pulling electrons. So when atoms interact, one will grab the electron. And when they grab the electron, you know what I'm saying? That's a relationship. That atom is stuck, or the atom got to lose its electron, right? So it could be stuck, form a compound or molecule, or it could just be short an electron now, right? Until you get into redox stuff and that whole game, right? But this, and I know I keep saying, I've been saying it since we was on here for about an hour. So it's almost 3 hours now. And I've been saying for the last 2 hours, we ending this video. So we really is ending this video though. For sure. We really is in quantum mechanics. Imagine learning quantum mechanics from a guy that says things like, we really is. I love that. All right, so the fields, right? If we reduce our world, which many scientists say we can, and they cite E equals MC squared as the reason, the example, right? So if we can reduce our world down to these three things, right? If we reduce our world to these three things, the Trinity, we can reduce our world to these two, because these are the fields that create the other one, right? And so when light turns back into magnetism and electricity, it's not that light is creating magnetism and electricity. It's just they separated. So electricity and magnetism, they got a partner in a sense, right? They interact, they feel each other out, right? Fields, feeling. That's actually a song title. Every song is like a whole class. We got a song called "A Feel Is a Feel." Fields, feeling. A field is a feeling. Something like that. A feel is a feeling. Tangible healing. Revealing. Something like that. Anyway, so now we go back and we keep going, right? So let's do magnetic field right here. right? Let's do magnetic field. Let's do electric field. Here's your point of interaction, right? Now, typically, what's going to happen is you're going to get some action out here, but that's not the way that it's taught, right? Your action to be going like that. And that's really because we're on a 2D surface trying to replicate a 3-dimensional thing. But what you actually have is the light or the photon adjacent to the center of the contact, right? And you always are going to create 90-degree angles. So you're going to move from a 90-degree angle to an acute or an obtuse angle, or you're going to move from an obtuse angle or an acute angle to a 90-degree angle. But the 90-degree angle is the reason why this is the symbol of masonry, right? The reason why the square, right? The square, you got to meet on the square, is because magnetism and electricity meet here on the square at 90-degree angle. And when the magnetism and the electricity come together at 90-degree angle, that's when light is produced, right? So this is close, but it's much easier when we do that. Right? Because now you have something that you remember. Now you have something you remember, right? So this is the reason why this is so important. When I say this, the people who know, they already know what this is. You at home, you're thinking, oh, random triangle. People at home know, not random triangle, right? This is, we're going to do 3, 4, 5, right? That's the 3, 4, 5, right? And so this is where you get everything. And when I say everything, everything, because it's this 3, 4, 5 and this triangle that the Greeks and the Romans got their hands on that allowed them to understand the nature of a wave and ratio. Once you get ratio, which is fractions from the Aya Heru, right? They demonstrate that we have fractions. Once you get that, the fractions, now you have music. Once you get fractions, now you have music. Once you get fractions, now you can start to play around with sound and make different sounds, right? You just put them in ratio to one another, right? And when you play with different sounds together, you find out, oh, things only sound good when they are in certain types of fractions. That's why you have the half, the fifth, the fourth, the third. These are all the ratios that create harmony. Now that's important because if you're trying to use energy to build, which is what the universe has taught us, the universe does what? Turns energy into matter. And for our understanding, we get the concept of mass so that we can study how much energy it takes to create this type of matter. Or if we have the matter and we want to go backwards, we calculate mass. We know how much energy should be produced out of this. Right? But everything comes from this little one thing. Now, I don't know if, from what I studied, this came from the relationship of the earth, the moon, and the sun. Looking up into the sky and seeing that's how they play. Right? The earth, moon, and the sun. That's how they play. Right? So there's even a triangle you can use like this to predict where the sun is and declination and inclination, and it gets crazy. Not going into all that. Not even sure I'm capable of going into that at this point, right? But, you know, your simple points, right? Your simple points, when you take these three numbers, right, you get your 12. If I add these numbers together, I get 12. Right? So what do I get when I get 12? I get my calendar. Everything comes right from here. Right? I got my calendar. If I add 3 plus 4 plus 5, that's 12. Right? But I get the whole calendar. Not only do I get the 12 months, right? Not only do I get the 12 months, but I get the 3 seasons, right? 4 months each. 3 seasons of 4 months each. That's how they did it in Kemet. I told you, everything Kemet is opposite to us now. So what do we do now? We do 4 seasons that are 3 months each. It's still the 4 and the 3. So it don't matter. It's still from here. Kemet did 3 seasons of 4 months each. We do 4 seasons of 3 months each. It's still the same no matter what. Right? Everything come right from there. Bam, 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 bam. And then the 5 is what? What is the 5? How many days a year in it? 365. Right? If you have 3 seasons, 4 months each, you're going to have 360 days. Right? Because when they were viewing the sun, we rotated and we went in the circle. So that was the nature of things. 360 degrees. Right? 360. So 360 going to be there. And so because 360 represent completion, as far as they was concerned, you didn't go past completion. The only thing past completion is God. So that's how they set up the calendar. They had 360 days, and then they had 5 holy days. Right? These are considered the extra holy days. Right? Now, what did we do? Because we still on the same planet. So we still got to figure this out. We just hid our 5 days. We still have these same 5 days. Right? We hid it. So this is why every 4.5 years we have a leap year. Because we have 5 days that are technically unaccounted for. So we have taken those 5 days and hid them in different months. So some years, this month will have 28 days. Some years it'll have 29. Some years it might have. So we hid our 5 days. But there's no past 360. 360 is 360. Right? 360 is 360. Right? And so if you add these numbers, you get the 12, which is how they unfold the calendar, right? But when you unfold the calendar, you're still not done with your timekeeping, right? So to go further into the timekeeping, we stay right here, right? We stay right here because we have 12 right here, 12 months, right? 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 12, right? So 12. Well, if we do 3 times 4, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. Now you got your origin for 60 minutes. Yeah, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, right? And all of these numbers show back up inside your body. All these numbers show back up inside your body. These are the numbers that the universe stands on, and so does your body, right? Because this same 4 months that they did for season, see, day schedule is in tune with the body. 4 months is in tune with the body. You know why? Because your body has 4 month seasons based on your red blood cells, which is the foundation of your body. Your body starts with the blood because that's the first stop for oxygen. So God, then to you, right? God breathe out, you breathe in. So we start with the breath, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Breath going blood. Breath go lungs, blood. Right? But 120 days, 4 months. So when you add the 60, the 3 times 4 times 5, when you add the 60 with the 12, now you have 72, right? Now you have 72. 60 plus 12, 72. Now, in Kemet, they broke this whole same thing down in a totally different way, right? They used a story. So the story was, I don't even remember the story exactly, but one of the goddesses, she couldn't get pregnant. So she goes to Jehudi, right? Some stories, I think they say Kansu, but some stories is Jehudi. I think Jehudi works better. But these are moon gods. So you're talking about the moon, right? But somehow they gamble with the god of the moon and he loses. And so they get 5 days and the 5 days gets added into the whatever. And all these numbers is in the Kemetic story. All these, in fact, let me see if I can look it up. No, I'm not going to look it up. Because see, that's how we keep talking. I don't really want to keep talking to y'all. I'm trying to wind this thing up. So, right, these numbers, right, govern the structure of the universe and your body, right? But these numbers do that because number is frequency. Frequency is what? Movements per second, oscillation, right? The thing that crystals do. When they're oscillating, what are they doing? They're transforming energy from one form to another. That's what you do. When you oscillate, your oscillations is your day-to-day. Right? That's your oscillation. You turning matter into energy all the time. And then turning pure energy back into matter. So we do it all. And unlike any other creature that we know of on Earth, we have the ability to reinvent. We have the ability to observe. Nobody else has the ability to observe. As of right now, people will word that differently. Oh, well, we have a way of being conscious of our own consciousness. Or some people would say, oh, well, we can self-refer or whatever the case may be. I'm going to use my lingo and I'm going to say what the book says. And before the book, the path ride says, right? God is fly and amazing. And he done put a little fly and amazing in you. And it ain't everywhere. So that's why it's 2 stories. You got the regular and then you got the So the regular creation is like, okay, yeah, this was what happened with this and whoop, and this how I put this thing together. But then there's another one. Yeah, that's the duo. You know what I'm saying? So when we get down to this concept of music, right? Okay, just remember some of this stuff. Just remember some of this stuff. Just remember it. Right? And I know some of y'all heard this 1,000 times. Some of y'all first time hearing it, whatever you need it. Some of y'all doing review. It's cool. When we get into that, right? And we go into our 12 months and our seasons and all that, right? We're going to our months, our seasons, right? We even got into our 60. So we got minutes and seconds and all that. We got to add in the days, right? Now, remember, in Kemet, they did 360 plus 5. So they working on the 360, right? Which means in a numerical sense, they're working on a number 9. right? So everything is going to be based on the number 9, technically, in the way they structure their calendar. Ours slightly different. Ours based on the number 7. I'm cool with leaving the number 9 for number 7. I love the number 9, but I can work with the God number. You know what I'm saying? Number 7 is flying amazing in of itself. So we moved from the 9 to the 7, right? So that's why we have, right? We have our 365, and then we got what? 7 days in a week, right? 7-day, right? As opposed to a 10-day week, right? Or a 9-day week and a 1-day holy festival thingy, whatever, where they like the weekly festival, you know what I'm saying? So it's 10 days total, but you know, they got it broken down into the prayer day and the feast day and all this and all that. But here we did the 7-day weeks instead of the 10-day. So in their year, they're doing 36 weeks, right? 360 days, 36 weeks. See where I keep getting their number 9 from? Their number 9 comes back, right? For us, we're doing what? We're doing 52 weeks. So our 7-day week, right? We got 7 days in our week and 52 weeks in a year. So our 7 comes back. Recursive, right? That's a part of, okay. Feedback is important. But then you take it further, right? Because then all these same numbers wind up back in your body, right? So you have the blood, which was at 7.365 for a while. But now that Earth is moving a little bit and we're just getting permanently toxic, we're starting to slowly but surely drift from the optimum 7.365, right? But this is what your blood pH is supposed to be. This is optimum for your blood pH. That's not a mistake. 7 days in the week, 365 days in a year. That is a signature of nature, because it's 365 days that it takes us to go around the sun. So that same 365, that number, that frequency is also represented in your blood. And if you get far away from this, 7.365, you die quick. If you go up too high, it's alkalosis. If you go down too low, it's acidosis. You die quick, right? What's the main thing that contributes to your pH? What is pH? See, if you say food, you'll know what you're talking about. You're listening to that old school Sabi stuff. Love Sabi, but he was wrong with a lot of stuff, right? What makes up your pH? What's the most important thing to your pH? It is not your food, right? What types of matter do we have? It used to be 3, now it's 4, right? It used to be solid, liquid, gas. Now it's solid, liquid, gas. What's the 4th one? Plasma, right? Okay. So what do you have? You have your blood, which is what? Plasma. Right? What is plasma primarily made out of? Plasma is primarily made out of hydrogen. What is pH? Power of high. High. Like hydrogen. I'm sleepy, I need to go to bed. The power of hydrogen. That's where you get your pH. This was a German guy came up with this, and he came up with this study in what? the oldest symbol for the power of hydrogen. The power of hydrogen. How would, if I wanted to represent the power of hydrogen in the metal nature, how would I do that? I'm not saying it's represented there. I'm not saying that when you see this, that in Kemet somehow they knew that it was, or they meant to say. I'm not saying none of that. I'm saying something very specific. If you wanted to represent power of hydrogen in the Kemetic language, how would you do that? Well, you would represent power this way. This would be the symbol you would use for power in this context, right? Yeah, look something like that, right? This is the symbol you would use for power, right? And then for the hydrogen, you would use this symbol, right? The I, right? You would use the I, which is what they always used in Kemet for the sun. The sun is the source of hydrogen in our universe. 99.9999999. In our little neighborhood, the universe, yeah, hydrogen, sun. So you got your sun or your hydrogen source, and you have power. What is pure power represented by in Kemet? The throne. The throne is what represents power in Kemet. The throne gives you power to interface with the gods on behalf of the people and interface with the people on behalf of the gods. Power, hydrogen, right? It just so happens to be that this is also how you spell Asar's name in the Kemetic. Just so happens to be how you spell Asar. Now, obviously, you can add a few pieces, right? You could put the little man that sits down back here, you know, the little man, and then you can add the W sound, the woo, or the oo, right? Sometimes they put the little birdie, but you're supposed to have this. But they don't put this a lot no more because they don't want you to know that the spirals come from Kemet too. All that golden spiral, this and that and the other. Sorry, Chant. Not only does that come from Kemet, but that's literally in Wusia's name. That's the oo. The woo, the oo, that part. The woo, that part. See, but you cheating, Lamar. I just want you to know that. You are the only person who I don't even have to ask. I already know you are a Spotify monthly listener. That is my new term that I need to learn. I need to invite people constantly to become Spotify monthly listeners. So if you are watching this video and you have not subscribed to the channel, this channel you watching, and you watching me talk with this hat and do-rag that don't even match at 2:30 in the morning. This is destroying my outfit. And you watching me at 2:30 in the morning with this type of thing, this going on, and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please, not only do I want you to stop watching, but I want you to just like throw your phone or your laptop into a spinning fan. Throw your laptop or your device into a spinning fan, but make sure you turn the fan up all the way high before you do it. So just throw your stuff, destroy it. But for everybody else, please subscribe to the YouTube page and then go to Spotify or wherever you go. I'm just saying Spotify because I'm just learning. So right now, I think everybody on Spotify. Last week, I thought everybody was on Apple Music. Give me another few weeks. I don't know what, I'll be somewhere else with it. Right? But Spotify, that's what I know right now. I'm studying Spotify. So I need some Spotify monthly listeners. All right. And then you will have all them little sleep cheat codes Lamar has. Now, of course, we're going to continue to go into this because there's a lot more to this. I'm really trying to make something complicated simple, right? But anyway, let me get this off of here. Let's just be that rabbit hole food. Just be that rabbit hole food. So, these recipes all